So I mentioned in the last video that I felt I had a personal relationship with God, that I felt like Jesus was my best friend, and that, God talked to me and led me certain ways, and this belief fueled a faith that I had. I had a faith that God could get me through anything. And there were hardships that I went through, like any time in your life, you have hardships. I can't think of one single time that, anyone's life is completely free of any sort of worry or cares or problems. And I never expected the problems to just go away because I was a Christian. I never expected them to go away because I was saved or, felt like I had a relationship with God. But I did sort of have an expectation that my relationship with God would make it easier for me to deal with hardship. Now, I don't think this is a crazy expectation, since that's pretty much what the Bible said from the way I was reading it. Any man in Christ becomes a new creature, that, Christ will give you peace that passes all understanding, that Christ, if you're following Christ, you'll have the fruits of the Spirit: joy, peace, long-suffering, etc. There's more. And I figured the more I put into God's kingdom, the more I strive to serve God, the more peace that I would have in myself. There were lots of times in my life during this period I thought this was true. I would feel really good when I was getting into prayer deeply or at church worshiping, but then, I went home and I went to life, and life felt cold. I had such a hard time maintaining that feeling, and that was something that really bothered me throughout this. And I kept thinking there must be something that's getting in my way with my relationship with God. So, it was a long period of trying to find anything to get rid of that would make it better. I've mentioned in earlier videos that I threw away a bunch of things, but this happened multiple times throughout my church years. I, at one point, throughout all of my music that was non-Christian related, I struggled with having a sex drive, being a young adult, and I never acted against what I felt was right, but, I always felt guilty, even if I thought things about people, even if I had fantasies or whatever, the lust, Jesus taught against the lust. I tried to cut back on any sort of sexual encounters, including kissing, making out, anything that made me want to have sex. I try to get rid of it. I remember just trying to always be closer to God all the time, and trying to believe it so hard that I lived it, Like, I didn't lie about the fact that I had emotions like a normal human being, but I walked into church with a smile on my face every day. I walked everywhere with trying to look like I had the joy of the Lord. And you ever hear the term, fake it until you make it? That's what I felt like I was trying to do. In fact, we were encouraged to do this. The whole, live it. Believe that you're going to have it, act as if you already have the blessings. And I would do that. Everyone thought I had everything together. But they didn't know that, I would shut the door to my room and lay on the floor crying because I couldn't feel close enough to God sometimes. And I would just get so depressed sometimes. And I couldn't understand why. I would tell God I could save so many more people if I really had that peace that passes all understanding. I want it for myself, but I understand that there is more that's important than just my own happiness. if I really want to be a witness to God, if I really want to trust God and do this, I need to have this. I need to have this peace. And I kept telling myself that I had it. I would go to church and I would believe that I had gotten it and I felt something, and then it would eventually dissipate. No matter how often I prayed to myself while walking to class, no matter how many worship CDs I had in my CD player, no matter how many times I fasted, I never had it like the Bible described. And you might say, oh, then you weren't a real Christian. And it's so ridiculous, because I know that I meant it 100%. I believed it 100%. I lived it 100%. I thought I knew it was true. I was willing to give up everything I can possibly think of for that relationship. I was willing to give up my life as I knew it. I was willing to move across country. I was willing to, if need be, give up my family, give up my friends. That's how deep I was. And yeah, I didn't think that God would make me do anything that drastic, but if it came down to it, if God told me to do something drastic, if it was something that wasn't directly against the Bible, I would believe it and I would do it. I gave up a lot. I gave up my identity in a lot of ways, because I thought if there's one thing that's separating me from God, I wanted out.